I saw a statistic the other day that more than 40% of people who are between the ages of 65 and 79, and more than 30% of people who are over the age of 80 are still carrying a mortgage. When I saw those statistics, I don't know if I was shocked, but I was pretty taken back. And if I'm being honest, saddened. Back in 2018, I made the decision that I wanted to be done with my mortgage. At that point, I had in between 50 and 55,000 left on my mortgage, and that was 2018, so that would have put me at 51 years old. And I just decided that I wanted to be done. I did not want to carry a mortgage into my retirement. That was the last thing that I was going to do. There were a lot of things that went into that decision to pay off my mortgage. That's a topic for another video. But I had a picture of myself being old and in my 70s and 80s and being one of those people in those statistics. And I did not want to have a mortgage when I was that old. So I made it a point to pay my mortgage off. And I did that in 2021. So it took me about 3 years to pay that down. And the reason I'm making this video is because when I saw those statistics, I thought about what I had to do to pay my mortgage off. And for me, at least, it had very little to do with money. And I know that sounds crazy because, like I said, I had in between 50 and 60,000 left on my mortgage. And obviously I had to come up with the money to pay that. But it was more about the decisions that I made than it was about the amount of money that I was making. And I think I know why people between the ages of 65 and 79 are still carrying a mortgage. I don't claim to know all the reasons, but I think I know a couple of the reasons why. The first thing is people our age, we were taught that you work hard, you start a family, you buy a house, and you get a 30-year mortgage. And I think the prevailing thought when it comes to mortgages is that it's something you're going to have your entire life. So why even bother trying to pay it off? Because it's just such a large loan, it's such a large amount of money. Why even bother to pay it off? You're going to have this thing the rest of your life. It's a constant. It's always going to be there. So you live with it. And we just live and we pay down this mortgage for 30 years. We pay a ton of bank interest and make the C-suite banking executives wealthy, while we are carrying this massive loan. So during that time that we have that mortgage, we've come to accept that's going to be a part of our life. And what do? We spend money on other things. We buy nice cars. We take vacations every year. That's one thing I've never wrapped my head around is why people feel the need to take a vacation every year. I really don't feel like I need to take a vacation every single year. But anyway, I digress. So we get caught up in all of these other things, spending money on things we don't need, and living our lives. And we know we have this mortgage out there. We know we have to pay the mortgage. We just treat it as something that's always going to be there. And I made the decision that wasn't going to be me. I was so fearful that I was going to be old and have no ability to generate income, and I would still have a mortgage. So my thought was, while I'm still relatively young, like I said, at that point, I was 51, and I'm still earning good money, I better get rid of this mortgage. I better put my head down, and I better pay this thing off while I'm still making money. I was making decisions based solely on paying that mortgage off. I was so focused and determined to get that mortgage out of my life. Every time I got paid, every last dollar that I could afford to throw at that mortgage, I didn't buy anything I did not need. Like I said, I didn't go on vacations, but every last dollar I made went to paying that mortgage off. And it was a long 3 years. I would see acquaintances, high school classmates, college classmates posting on Facebook and Instagram about the vacations they were taking. And I have to admit, it made me jealous. And there were times where I thought to myself, what are you doing? Why don't you enjoy your life, take your foot off the gas with the mortgage, and just enjoy life a little bit? Go on a vacation. You know you're ready for a new car, so just go ahead and go out and get that new car or a newer car. That was one of the most challenging things, was seeing these other people who I knew living their lives, enjoying their lives, while I was just grinding and putting my head down, and every last dollar that I could spare was going to paying the mortgage off. And I think that's one of the reasons why people 5 to 79, 80 and older, I think that's one of the reasons they're still carrying mortgages, is because they weren't willing to sacrifice when they were earning money. It all comes down to decisions. It all comes down to prioritizing what you want to do. What's the most important thing? My channel is called Next Phase Freedom. I can't think of anything that offers folks our age more freedom than paying off a mortgage and not having to worry about a mortgage when we're in our 60s, 70s, and apparently our 80s. To me, that's the ultimate freedom. So in 2021, I paid that mortgage off. It took me about 3 years to do it. August will be my 5-year anniversary paying off that mortgage. And man, it feels good. It still feels good. Because what that's done for me is it opens up so many other things that I can do in terms of when I do actually decide to retire. I know I'll always have my home. So if I want to travel if I want to relocate for maybe a few months out of the year. I live in Ohio, and the weather here in the winter, I'm getting pretty tired of the cold weather. I've lived here my entire life. So I've had thoughts of relocating for a few months to some warmer weather during the winter months. And having no mortgage allows me to do that. If I want to go for 6 months, I know I'm always going to have a mortgage-free home. If you are in your late 40s, 50s, and you are earning money and you still have a mortgage, put your head down, make some sacrifices. You really don't need a vacation. You may think you do, but you really don't. Because most of the time, taking a vacation just creates more debt. If you're in your late 40s, in your 50s, and even your 60s, get rid of your mortgage. You do not want to have a mortgage in your retirement. I hope you got something out of this video. When I saw those statistics the other day, I had to make this video. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. That helps me get my content out to more people. I enjoy making financial content, wellness content, mental health, physical health. I enjoy making that content for folks our age because it's so important. We want to live our best lives in our 50s, 60s, 70s, and into our 80s. And not having a mortgage is a big way to help us live our best lives. I know I didn't say that quite right, but I think you understand what I'm saying. I appreciate you taking time to watch. I know you have things to do, and it's humbling to know that people actually take a few minutes to hear what I have to say. So thank you again, and until next time.